What's up, Central Illinois business owners? We know that insurance and employee benefits are one of the most expensive, confusing, and frustrating hurdles that you face in your business today. Garrett and I work with Central Illinois businesses to create insurance and risk management programs and employee benefit solutions that reduce risk, enhance your business, and maximize your profitability. Head to CIBLinsurance.com to learn more about insurance solutions that are specifically designed for your Central Illinois businesses and to watch our educational videos about work comp, employee health insurance, commercial insurance, and other insurance products to help your business go to the next level. Go to CIBLinsurance.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu is a delicious grapefruit or wildberry vodka-based spirit infused with a Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at ZambuLiquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. All right, Central Illinois, today's guest is the founder of LIVE2LEAD. Ladies and gents of Central Illinois, please welcome Jason Wyatt. How you doing, Jason?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
Doing very well, man. Doing very well. We're excited to have you on the show, excited to learn more about your business. But before we do that, Jason, we're going to take you through our speed round questions.
Yep. We'll go ahead. Probably the 6 toughest questions you've ever answered in your life. So this may be a little tough, but we'll go ahead and kick it off with the first concert that you ever attended.
First concert I ever attended was, that's a harder one because I don't go to a lot of concerts.
No problem.
I think it was Aretha Franklin when she was here at Eastern.
Okay.
Nice. There you go.
Gotcha. Cool. Favorite movie?
Nah, see, I love movies, but I don't pick favorites. But if I have to, I like the genre of sci-fi.
Okay.
I'm a big sci-fi fan, although probably my most recent favorite movie has been Agatha Christie, Murder on the Nile.
All
I love
right.
mysteries.
Perfect. Favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm just a vanilla guy.
Me too.
I feel like we've had that answer the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So are you an iPhone or Android guy?
Android.
Oh,
Mostly I just don't like iPhone because it forces you to do everything in one way. And I've already learned the other way. I don't want to go back and learn it again.
Sure.
Oh,
sure. I think I'm stuck in my ways. I don't think I could do anything other than Apple at this point. Too easy. I got it all figured out. So your favorite social media platform?
Well, right now it's been LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Good.
We count that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And last but not least, why Central Illinois?
Well, I'm actually always lived in Illinois.
Okay.
Actually, I'm from, well, we'll call it Southern, but it's only an hour away,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
hour and 30 minutes away, but it's technically Southern Illinois. So I've always lived in Illinois. I thought, why not? Why not stay here? It's fine. I'm old enough. I'm too set in my ways now to move.
Sure.
There you go. There you go.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear, we hear a lot of Central Illinoisans complaining about something, but no one leaves.
Nobody's leaving
Everybody
anything
sticks around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Well, awesome, Jason. You breezed through those pretty easy. So at this point in time, Jason, we're passing the mic off to you. You take it and run with it. Tell us your story as far back as you like. Bring us up to speed with what you're doing today.
Okay. So first off, I always like to start off with, I have a degree in chemistry.
Okay.
Which is
Cool.
totally not the field I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I worked for several companies doing in corporate America, doing quality assurance, quality control, working with frontline employees all the way up to CEOs and board members. We're doing different things, working for them to build their business and build quality in that business. So as I was doing that, I decided I wanted to improve my leadership skills. And so that when I did that, I started to have more conversations around with my coworkers about leadership. How do you lead people? What's the best process? What do we do here? And as I started to do that, I'm like, wow, I should probably stop doing that and start actually talking about what I've been hired and being paid to do. But everybody kept asking me about it. So I continued on, and then I decided I'm just going to start my own business. And so that's what I did. I started my own business. It's called LIVE2LEAD. And that's what I do. I do business and leadership success coaching, speaking, and training. And I've been doing that now for 4 years. It's a blast. I love doing it. I love being able to go out and develop new things and talk to people about leadership, because I think it's something that we all need, but we never really connect with.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Well, I've got a quick story, completely not about the business, but all about chemistry. So when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, had no clue. And my family's kind of always been in the healthcare field. So I felt like maybe I should try to go that direction. And I started out in pre-physical therapy. Sounded like a great idea at the time. Well, chemistry was one of the classes you had to take to get into, a physical therapy program. So my first day of chemistry, I was lost. So there was an issue. Well, the first issue is a 7:30 a.m. class for a college student. That's pretty tough. And the second issue, my teacher or professor was from Egypt. She was Egyptian. And I had a lot of trouble understanding what she was saying. And I went back to my dorm or to my apartment, and I was looking through notes. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I couldn't find some of these words in the book. And I finally called my dad, because my dad's pretty knowledgeable about healthcare and understands chemistry and physiology and does a good job with that. Well, I finally was like, Dad, she kept saying this word and I cannot figure it out, but it was basically the main point of her entire, session today. She kept saying Elamon. I was like, what's an Elamon? And Dad's like, you mean element? I'm like, oh, gee. I'm like, that's probably it. I think that's it. So that's, needless to say, chemistry wasn't my forte. I made it through, but I quickly decided after that to not go into the healthcare field. Here I am today selling.
So you didn't have to drop the class.
No, I didn't drop the class. I muddled my way through it. I did what I needed to do to move on, and that's what I did. Was after it was done, I moved on. So anyway, kudos.
So you needed leadership.
I needed leadership,
leadership,
and I needed a chemistry major like Jason to help me through, but it didn't work out for me. So anyway, kudos to you for sticking it out, Jason. So anyway, back to your business, LIVE2LEAD. So you've worked for a bunch of other people doing other things. You found that leadership may be a passion of yours. Tell us about when you decided to build your business. What went into that process of, okay, I'm going to start my own business? How do you start? Like, what was step number one for you?
Well, for me, step number one was really deciding to do it, because I think that's always the biggest step when I work with clients who are looking at building a business or stepping away and starting their own business. It's making that decision to do it, because, when you're working for someone else, you have this safety net. You have this safe space where everybody's, hey, they're paying my bills. They're giving me money. They're paying my insurance. They're paying me this, that, and I don't have to do anything. But when you take over, you have to do all of that now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big step for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people will step out to start their own business, and then they're like, "Oh no, this is too much. I got to go back."
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's kind of scary.
Right.
So that was probably the biggest first step I made.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, when you started to build your business, obviously leadership was the focus. What clients did you want to work with? Like, who did you feel needed the information that you had?
Well, for me, I was looking at what was my experience, what was my background. So my background's in corporate America. So working with organizations, multiple manufacturing sites, doing that type of experience was what my experience has always been. So I thought, why not work with them? Because those are who I've worked with before. And knowing from my background what they need would help me guide them a little better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So what type of landscape are you working with? And we're here in Central Illinois. Are you spreading your wings all over the place because of the Zoom and, digital capabilities, things like that? What kind of landscape do your clients do you work with?
So I work with a large large number of different clients, from nonprofits to for-profit businesses, all throughout the state of Illinois and throughout the country.
Okay.
I do kind of stay within the United States because
Sure.
I don't know enough foreign languages to work.
Yeah.
That would be really bad for me to speak Spanish to somebody, because I would say the wrong word and they'd be like, "What did you just say?"
Yeah. Right there with you.
Yeah. Well, for all the listeners, Jason and Garrett and I got to meet Jason at an actual live event in Mattoon. Jason, you're part of, I always get it's the Mattoon Small Business Meetup. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Okay, perfect. So Garrett and I spoke about the podcast to some of the members of the Small Business Meetup there in Mattoon.
Yep.
And when we were there, Jason handed us a flyer. And if you're watching the video, you can see I'm holding it up here. And so the one thing, Jason, that kind of caught my attention when you handed the flyer and we were talking to you was the Maxwell leadership. So that's a big, I've listened into a lot of those videos, and I think I've sat in on some other people who are, I don't know if it's considered certified or part of the Maxwell group. Tell us how you got involved with the Maxwell group, what it has done for you and it's done for your clients.
So when I joined the Maxwell leadership team probably 4 years ago as well.
Okay.
And the reason I joined it was because it was a way for me to grow my business and grow my understanding of leadership, not really even focusing on business. It was just, how do I lead better?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'd followed John Maxwell's books. I'd read his 21 Laws, and it made some sense, but sometimes it's like, well, that doesn't really apply here, but it actually all applies. And I didn't realize how it all applied. So then I joined the Maxwell leadership team. And by doing that, it allowed me to kind of immerse in everything that he had. And now by being a member for 4 years, it's allowed me to kind of gain different insights. I'm licensed to teach a lot of his books. So if we talk about the 21 Laws, I can talk about that.
Sure.
And doing that allows me to bring a better wealth of knowledge to the group I'm helping. It gives me some backing. It gives me some understanding, because they might have heard of Maxwell, they might have not, but we can come back to a certain point and go, okay, here's something to start with. Let's start here, and then we can expand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can see some of the books behind you, Jason, and
yes,
I see the at least one of them's written by Maxwell. I can't read all. I can't see all the covers, but
these are all my Maxwell books.
Okay.
And then these are my non-Maxwell books.
Okay. Perfect. So obviously Maxwell is a big part of your life and career. Tell us what maybe some of your favorite books that you've read by Maxwell or not by Maxwell, and how you've been able to apply those, or your clients have been able to apply some of those principles in those books.
So my favorite book through Maxwell is the 21 Laws of Leadership. And it's great. I always think of it as more of, you've been in business, you've been leading a group for a little while, and here is your outline for how to lead now. This will give you the setup. And I use it when I work with clients. That's what I use it for. Now I'm reading my new favorite book, which is Love Works, from Marcus Buckingham. He was actually one of the speakers at the LIVE2LEAD, that the brochure that you held up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he is one of the founders he used to work for Gallup Poll. He's a researcher. He does a lot of leadership. And his new book talks about how that relationship between love and work. Because, people always say, well, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be things that no matter what you're doing, you're going to not like.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that. So he talks about, statistically, if you can enjoy about 20% of the things you do, you're going to love what you do. And he goes into talking about some research he's done with some Disney group. He's worked with some multiple large and small different types of businesses, and explaining that and how love really helps us to understand what we like to do. And what's more important is, we don't know what everybody loves to do. So you don't know what I love to do, and I don't know what you love to do. Even if I'm your leader, I can't guess. So I've got to help you figure it out, and then you help me figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what is the initial, kind of call look like? You got a business that's interested in learning something about leadership. Do you work with just one specific leader? Do you work with the leadership team? How does that generally go about?
So I will generally work with the entire leadership team.
Okay.
But normally what happens is someone will call saying, hey, we're looking to improve our leadership. Usually it's communication. They're like, we've got to fix our communication. We have some bad communication going on. So I'll go in and I'll talk to them, trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for, because I don't want to prescribe something without knowing what they're looking for.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what I specialize in is customizing what I provide. So they might say, hey, well, we're wanting something with a little leadership, but a little more on the communication side. And I start delving into that side more. And then I work with the entire group because, as John states it, it's the law of the lid. You do not want somebody, the strength of leadership of a company is based on the highest leader's lid. So if they're set at a point, no one can go above that point. So they hit the lid. And so what happens is as people come in, and if that leader's at a 6, someone comes in who's a 5 and they try to go above a 6, they'll end up leaving the company. And you don't want to do that. You want to help grow everybody. So you keep raising the lid and you allow more people to grow and stay within the company.
Yeah. Very nice. So Jason, we kind of mentioned it a little bit ago. You had a live event. It just happened, I think, October 19th, 20th, something like that.
Yep.
So first off, tell us about your live event. Do you do this every year? Hey, Central Illinois professionals, do you know where people go to learn more about you? They typically either go to your About Us section of your website or your LinkedIn profile. And guess what the first impression is that they see? That's right. It is your professional headshot. Your headshot is part of your brand. Your brand should proudly show the world how passionate you are about delivering quality products and services to your customers. At Studio 21, you won't get the boring old headshots that everyone else has. When you get photos with Melissa Hardin at Studio 21, your headshots will show off your strength, confidence, and approachability. To book a professional headshot appointment for you and your team, call Melissa at 217-962-0048 or visit www.melissamharden.com. That's MELISSAMHARDEN.com. And let Melissa at Studio 21 help you stand out from the crowd. What's up, Central Illinois? You know what you all need? You all need some CIBL podcast swag. And thanks to our newest sponsor, Jedco Sales, you can now find our swag at CIBLmerch.com. You can find t-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, hats, and more, all classically adorned with our famous CIBL podcast logo. If you want to represent and support your favorite podcast, check out CIBLmerch.com. That's CIBLmerch.com. If you like our store, you can also build your very own business swag store with the help of Jedco Sales in Effingham, Illinois. Jedco is owned by previous CIBL guests, Andrew and Laren Dial. They've set up a special discount offer for CIBL guests and listeners to set up your very own custom branded swag store. You can now offer branded apparel to your employees, customers, and fans, and Jedco will fulfill all the orders for you. Contact Jedco at sales@jedcosales.com. That's sales@JEDCO sales.com, and tell them that Garrett and Derek sent you. Let Jedco help you get noticed.
Actually, I do. Well,
Okay.
I've done it for the last 3 years. We'll say.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a great event. I call it an immersive training, kind of like those trainings that you go off and send people to for learning a foreign language, but we just do it in one day.
Okay.
A lot, 100% on leadership. We have virtual speakers because, let's be honest, I can't afford to bring John Maxwell here.
Yeah.
I would love to, but that's not going to happen. So we get virtual speakers, and it's not the same speakers every time, but we get a wide range of speakers. They come in, they give us some leadership. We do something in between to help re-emphasize that point that they're making and try to bring that together. And actually this year, I'm going to try doing it again on January 5th.
Okay.
Cool.
Campaign.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Great time of year to do that, right? New Year's resolutions, new year, new me.
That's right. And
Yeah.
it's also indoors, so you don't have to be outside in the cold.
That's a positive. That's
there
a
you go.
positive. Very nice. Well, we've had a few, just not many, but a few people on the show who have had live events for their business. Tell us if maybe there's someone listening who's like wants to do something like this to expand their business. What goes into planning a live event?
Oh, that's not an easy question because there's so much that's required. You can hire people who do this professionally if you want, but of course, if you're starting out, you might not have that money.
Sure.
Because they're going to need to be paid. But you have to find a space, you have to start advertising it, you have to actually plan out what's going to be talked about or done during the event. Is it just a conversation that you're holding? How many people are going to be there? Are you going to charge? Are you not going to charge? What all is involved in that process, and how do you get that information? Because for me, I start in March.
Sure.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it goes from March finding the place to starting to advertise to getting the word, getting the word out is probably the biggest hurdle you face.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of logistical hurdles that you have to cover and get over to make it all work and go smoothly.
Yes, sir.
So part of your delivery for your services involves public speaking. Have you always been comfortable as a public speaker, or is that something you learned through the Maxwell programs? Or tell us a little bit about how you have developed as a public speaker.
So for me, public speaking is relatively easy.
Okay.
I enjoy doing it. So I kind of have this outer body experience while I'm doing it. I'm up there doing it, but no, I'm not really.
Yeah.
And of course I'm a planner, so I'm going to plan everything to like the nth degree too. So I've practiced even before my event. I had practiced probably 15 times what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So that's part of that process. But for me, when I was doing it before I got through training with the Maxwell leadership team, I would stumble a lot. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna, but now I can plan it out a little more. I'm thinking smooth flow and understanding, and I try to keep it kind of casual conversation style versus I'm up here telling you what to do, because no one really cares. No one really cares about the facts. They want something that they can relate to.
For sure.
And that's what they remember.
No facts. They just want the results, right?
They want to see the results, and they want to see something that they can relate to. So oftentimes I'll tell stories that relates to what I'm teaching and not try to overwhelm somebody with a bunch of facts, because it's easy to say facts. Yeah,
for sure. Well, Jason, I'm looking at your website. Just for all the listeners, website address is 1leadconsulting.com. And I'm looking at your services. And one thing that catches my eye that I was introduced to not too long ago is the DISC profiler, the DISC method.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you use the DISC profile. And I guess first off, what is it for the people who may have never heard of it that are listening? What is DISC profiling, and how do you use it as a leader?
So DISC profiling, or DISC, is a behavioral process analysis, and it's set up for each individual. And so we actually do a test or assessment, because people are scared of the word test. So assessment to help understand where you are on that scale. And it's very simple. It's based on 4 letters: D for dominant, I for influencer, S for stable, and C for compliant. Now I know I am a C. I do not like the word compliant, but that's what the word is.
Okay.
But overall, it's designed to help us understand ourselves and who we are in a certain environment. And environment plays a major part of who you are. And we look at you in how you are personally, how you project yourself to other people, and how you are under stress, because you actually can change throughout that time. And so when we work with DISC, I use it to help how to understand how to communicate with people, because certain people want to be communicated differently. I always like to refer to that as eyes. Eyes are very talkative. They want to talk. They want to tell everything. They've got a story on everything in life. They're great people. They're very fun to be around, but they've got a story. And whereas I'm a C personality, C personalities are more analytical sided. They want to think about the data. They want to look at the data. Don't bother me with anything else. Just give me the facts and then go away. We have to learn how to communicate with each other. And one of the ways that we encourage through DISC is to say, instead of knowing what you are, go and talk to the person how they want to be spoken to. So when I go in and talk to an I personality, I'm going to let them tell me a story and tell their backstory, tell what they did last weekend, tell what they plan to do this weekend. I'm not just going to rush in there, tell them facts and run away. But that's what I want when someone comes and talks to me. I want them to rush in, give me the facts and run away.
Yep.
So
Very
we
cool.
use that for that communication side, but we also use it to help understand ourselves. Because as you're developing yourself, as you're developing as a leader, you want to understand what type of leader you are. How does that affect those you lead? How does that affect those around you? When you approach them, how are you approaching people? Because sometimes, especially for D personalities, they're the really strong, dominant ones. They're direct to the point. They make a decision quickly and move on. They can come off kind of bossy.
Sure.
And it's okay. It's just a little overwhelming for people. So we have to be aware of some of that stuff when we're approaching a group, when we're approaching a team.
Well, Derek, I was laughing when he said I, because are you associating yourself with being an I then?
Yep, I actually took the DISC my first year of being a mentor for the CEO program here in Shelby County.
I was going to say, I feel like in our last CEO meeting we had with Derek and I both work with our local CEO students here in Shelby County, and I felt like they were talking about the DISC program as well.
Yeah. So I was a strong I, strong S.
Okay.
Low D, low C was my profile. So you can tell by the chemistry story that I shared, I would say. Like you said, Garrett, I was like, well, that pretty much spells out.
Yeah, I know. As soon as he starts saying that, I'm like, he starts laughing. I'm like, that's Derek right there.
Yep. So I was a strong I, strong S. And I can remember we did a pretty cool little exercise where we had to, it was easier for me because I was older, but as a high school student, it would have been tough. But like we had to go to someone who was different than us. Like we had our scores, like basically like wearing around our neck, but we're holding up our scores, what we were strong with. And we had to go to someone who was different than us and address them in a way that would allow them to bring their strengths forward. And it's really hard to do that, but it would be really hard if you didn't know what their strengths were.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what you're saying, Jason, is understanding how certain people behave, being able to lead, according to the person that you're trying to lead.
Right.
So not everybody likes to make decisions like that. But if you're my wife, well, she doesn't make this. She would be a C too. I know she'd be a C. She's not taking it, but she's the checklist, this, you know. So it's just cool to see how everybody scores. Yeah. But I'll always forget I was a strong I, strong S, and hearing you, Jason, just talk about that just affirms that that's correct. So
speaking of events, how fun would it be to have a speed dating event with something like this? How awesome would that be? That'd be hilarious.
That'd be funny. Oh yeah, for sure. That is cool. So Jason, tell us a little bit about some of if we've missed anything as far as the services you provide on leadership. Tell us anything else highlight wise that you want to share with our group.
So I think one of the key things that I always like is that I customize that whatever they need for them. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm going in to talk to a group about communication, I might pull out DISC, but I might say, okay, I don't think we need DISC. You guys seem to all get along pretty well. It's not that issue. It's just we're missing words. So let's work on some of that word communication. How are we relating that information? So I think that's the key thing for what I do is I make sure that I meet with the client to best serve them. Because for me, it is about serving them. I want them to grow. I want them to develop, and I want them to find the next opportunity. Because for me, it's great that I'm there and everything. I get paid, yay, but I want them to have more from it. And so I always try to make sure they get more, they gain more, they learn more than they offered.
Yeah,
Nice.
very cool.
From a client's perspective, I know that getting an individual or a group to do this is tough, right? Because then they feel like they've got a problem. Maybe they don't want to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got on your website here, you've got book a discovery call. So let's just say a group or somebody has wanted to reach out. What does the discovery call look like? What kind of time frame does that normally take? Walk us through kind of a little bit what that process looks like.
Sure. Discovery call is it takes about an hour, but mostly it's because I'm going to ask some of those questions that we don't want to talk about.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you've obviously had a problem, so you're calling me for a reason, but I'm going to dive into that. So if you called and said, hey, we have a communication problem, I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. What do you mean by communication problem? Because problem can be anything from, well, no one's listening to me, or, well, they're just not doing what I tell them to do. There's a wide range of problem. So we have to kind of define that problem a little better. And then from there, I can start looking at how can we help resolve that? What can we do by working together to meet your needs? Okay. And if I'm not the right person, if you were to come to me and say, hey, I'm having a problem, we need this issue, and this is our issue, we can't get quality set up right. I'm like, well, I can help you if it's chemically. I can do ISO, but I might not be your quality person. Let me connect you to somebody who's who runs quality side of stuff now. Let me connect you to somebody who deals with this insurance stuff more than I do. Well, I'll get you to those people instead of me, because I might not be that right person.
Okay.
But if it's calling me from what I do, when I can help you, I'm definitely going to dive into those questions, those specific needs, and see how we can meet those specific needs. Not necessarily add more on, but look at those specific needs that you have, and whether that's coaching, training, or just me coming in and speaking for a little bit, whatever is needed, I can be there to help you.
Very cool.
Great.
So Jason, one thing I always like to look at with businesses is like branding and marketing, that type of stuff. One thing I've noticed is I feel like you've established your brand very well, especially with your colors. Like red seems to be your brand color.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you see branding and what you've done to like tie all of your stuff into, especially like the red color and noticing your logo, that type of stuff.
So for me, branding it's not just, and I relate this to a video I saw a couple of days ago, but it is not just, it could be a logo, but it's not just the logo. Mm-hmm. It is literally how you present yourself when you go into the room. What do people view you as? Because that's your brand. So when you show up, how do you show up? So I show up in a tie and a nice shirt every time. Usually it's red. I'll admit that because I just like red. But I'm going to show up in a tie and a nice shirt, usually a vest or a jacket or something, to show that I'm showing up as a professional to meet your professional needs. And I think that's part of the process. You have to have that certain atmosphere when you walk in, and that's what they want to remember you for. So yes, they can remember me for this, but then they also remember me for being polite, being kind, there to serve them and not asking them to serve me. How can I help you? What can I help you with? So making sure your brand or your ideal of what you're supposed to be out there doing is what people are pushing. And that's what we want to hear back from them. So that's why I always look at branding.
Very cool. Gotcha. I have a mentor in the insurance space, and your website, your colors remind me of him. His brand colors, it's blue and yellow, and everything he wears is blue or yellow or a mixture of both. And he's very passionate about brand and brand awareness and, representing his company. I mean, I'd hate to know how expensive his suits and shoes are that he wears, but it's always got like the inside lining is blue or yellow pinstripe, and he has like a blue or yellow pocket square. So it just reminded me
because I know exactly who you're talking about without you saying his name.
Exactly. So kudos to you for tying that all together. And I think that goes well when people try to find you, that you have a fluent brand that they can, relate to. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, Jason, we are getting close to the 30-minute mark. Before we jump off of here, Jason, as leaders, obviously Central Illinois business leaders listening to this podcast, any piece of advice that you would leave our listeners with?
A piece of advice for the listeners. I think I've got two things. One is, we have this concept that the new generation is always the problem. Stop that. The new generation is not the problem. They just think a little differently than we do. So than your generation or a previous generation. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're wrong. They're just thinking different. We have to be aware of that when we approach them. I'm not saying just give them whatever they want, but be honest with them. Be upfront. Set those expectations. Ask them for what their expectations are. This will help you a lot when you're trying to hire people, when you're looking for people. But don't assume that you know everything that they're going to say, or that you assume that they're going to be able to do certain things that you want them to hire for, because there's a disconnect there, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they're not able to articulate that specific thing. So you've got to be that person. Mm-hmm. The other thing I always think of is, it's not about you as a leader. Leading is never about you. Leading is a service. It's not your title. It's not your role. It's not whatever. It's what you do to help the team, to help the organization grow. They follow you because you have this extra ability. And it's a learned ability. It can be learned. It can be taught. I hope so, because otherwise I'm in trouble. It can be taught, and it can help you learn how to connect, build, and grow not only yourself, but also them and your company in the long run. So be aware that no matter whether or not you have a large team or a small team, you're there as a leader. You need to be willing to step up to that role and serve people in a way that's going to help them grow as well.
Awesome. Nice. Nope. That's great. Well, if someone wants to reach out to you, we mentioned your website. What are all the avenues that they can reach out to you, Jason?
So you can send me an email at jasonwyatt@oneleadconsulting.com. You can call me 217-549-0822, or you can go to my website and then connect to me that way as well.
Perfect. Well, for all you loyal listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, you better be leaving us a review. Also, we've got a merch store. It's fairly new, but Christmas is right around the corner, everybody. So if you want to support your favorite podcast and make your significant other or co-workers or yourself look pretty cool, we've got some sweet CIBL merch. We got hats, shirts, polos. I didn't wear my polo today, but we got some coffee mugs, sweatshirts, a bunch of stuff.
You name it, we got it.
Yeah, exactly. It's from our sponsors over at Jedco Sales in Effingham. You can find our merch at CIBLmerch.com. So check that out. You can find our podcast on social media, mainly Facebook and LinkedIn. You can connect with Garrett and I there personally as well. Till next time, Jason, you've officially been civilized. Thanks for coming on the show with us.
Thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.